Hi, welcome to NDE TV. I'm Peggy Robinson. Today's guest is Karen Noe, and she is a psychic medium and she talks to the dead. And so we're going to have a conversation about this. Hi, Karen.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Good.
So, where would you like to begin?
Oh gosh. Well, I want everybody to know that this is not all there is. I know without a doubt, and my wish is for everybody to know that too. After we leave the physical body, the energy of who we are continues. It's just like say you put water in the middle of the room and it evaporates, it becomes a different form. Same it is with us. We just become a different form. It doesn't end. People think that you leave the physical body and that's it. And it's not just it. We continue,
Was you born
right?
with this? Or did
Mhm.
something happen that sparked this where you can do this?
I've always been psychic, even as a little girl. And my friends used to think they like, where are you getting this from? I was getting this information about them. But my father used to take me to the racetrack and I picked the winning horses for him. And now I'm an animal activist and I don't go to the racetrack. But about 25 years ago, I was going through a very difficult time in my life. And I sat at the edge of my bed and I just yelled at God. And I said, am I going to be okay? And with that, I saw a light that came towards me from the other side of the room. And my first thought was, if you're not of God, please leave. But the more I said that, the more it continued to come towards me. And it eventually enveloped me. And at that time, I heard an audible voice that said, Lucia Lucina, Bella, Lucia Lucina. If there are any Italian listeners, it means light, beautiful little light. And I've since learned that it was St. Francis of Assisi who's been guiding and protecting me ever since. And I started receiving messages from angels and deceased loved ones. And I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to be a psychic medium. I didn't want people to think I was not in my right mind, but it just happened. And then I started telling a few people. They started telling a few people and so forth. I started doing healing in the back of a hair salon with Reiki. And as I was doing Reiki on people, I would receive messages. And then the rest is history. Then I'm booked a couple of years ahead of time, and now I'm not even taking any new clients. But you know what? My purpose is not to talk about me. I think my purpose is to empower people to do what I do, because we can all connect with those who have passed. It's not just me. And I think that's such an important message, to empower yourself to know that your deceased loved ones are there for you. You just have to reach out to them and know how they're coming to you.
So, how do you reach out to them? Just
So there,
speak?
yeah, there's a number of things you can do that we all can do. I always use the analogy, everybody could play the piano if you have hands and fingers. Some people could play scales, other people could play great masterpieces, right? But everybody could play the piano. And the same is it is with us connecting with those who've passed. I would say, first of all, ask your loved one to come to you and give you a sign. I call it a without a doubt sign, something that normally wouldn't happen, right? I could give you some examples. They love to use their energy to come inside of a bird, a ladybug, a butterfly, a dragonfly, to let us know they're with us. But that animal would do something that it normally wouldn't do, such as land on us or peck at your window, or a butterfly will encircle you and so forth. Something that normally doesn't happen, you'll say, something's happening here. And even people who don't believe in this, in the afterlife, they'll say, this is my grandmother. She's talking to me. Other signs are they love to play with electricity. So the lights can flicker on and off when you're talking about them. Or you'll be driving and a car will cut you off and you look at the license plate and it's your loved one's name. Or you'll be in the middle of nowhere and you smell their cigar smoke or cigarette smoke. I could go on and on. You keep seeing the same numbers over and over, whether it be 1111, 2222, and so forth. And it goes on and on. The more you pay attention to these signs, the more they'll give you the signs. So I say, acknowledge it, say, this is awesome. It's not every bird in the sky. It's the bird that screams at you. It's the bird that stares at you, pecks at your window, trying to get your attention, that type of thing. That's one way of receiving messages. Another way is to ask your loved one to come to you in a dream and to ask them to wake you up after the dream so that you remember it. A lot of times they're trying to communicate with us And if we dream they come to us in a dream. If we dream the whole night, we won't wake up and we won't remember it. So I tell everyone to ask them to come to you in a dream and to tell them to wake you up after the dream so that you remember it. And then be patient and wait, and it'll happen when you least expect it. Also, you need to know the difference between a true visitation from a loved one and one from, if you're dreaming, if it's a dream from your subconscious trying to resolve issues from your loved one. Let me tell you the difference. If it's a true visitation from them, you'll wake up and you'll feel amazing. You'll feel like you won the lottery. You know, your loved one will come. You'll know they were in that dream. Sometimes if they were older, they like to come back as the age they wanted to be remembered as. And for whatever reason, it's 35. It seems to be always around that age for an older person. And so forth. It'll feel really good. Sometimes they don't even talk to you. They just are there in your dream. A dream from your subconscious, on the other hand, may be scary, how they passed. They may be in a casket. They may be angry at you. That's not a true visitation from them. That's you trying to, work out what happened with you and them, and you're trying to resolve issues. So it's important to know the difference between the two of them. And finally, I would tell people to your loved ones are speaking to you. They're not just speaking to a psychic medium. So how do you tell when your loved one is speaking to you? Most people expect to hear a voice or to see an apparition of what their loved one looked like, but in reality, they're spirit now, right? So they will be probably speaking to you telepathically. Mm-hmm. And that would be, they come to you as thoughts. Now, this is the thing. You're probably thinking of your loved one anyway. So how do you tell the difference between your thoughts and their thoughts?
Right.
Your thoughts will have an originating thought. Like, in other words, you'll think of them, you'll see a picture of them, which triggered a thought, That's you. Mm-hmm. But when they come to you, a true visitation, you'll be driving and all of a sudden a thought pops in your head for no reason. Like, for example, when my mom passed, I was driving and I heard, not as a voice, but as a thought, "Hi, sweetheart." I don't call myself sweetheart. She called me that. So that's how I knew, she was speaking to me. And I've been doing this so many years. I knew it was a message from my mom, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense. And I'm thinking that it sounds like it maybe don't have to be a loved one that you recognize or that you're wanting to connect with, because sometimes I think it could be like, I don't know who this is, say some people call them guardian angels or this voice said, and sometimes it just comes in. So it's not maybe just like trying to connect with spirits, but I wish some people think, oh no, that's witchcraft, but it's not. It's just connecting with who's there and what's trying to come through. And like you said, sometimes so spontaneous, it's just out of nowhere, and that you can bank on that. Because that wasn't your brain. I was thinking about this, and then I just kind of, my imagination went here, and to really train your brain to know the difference. So I get it.
Yeah. And you want to make sure that you're connecting to those of a higher frequency. So angels, deceased loved ones, and anything that's of a loving, peaceful nature. So the more you raise your vibration, so it's more on par with their energy, that's the type of messages you'll receive, from the angels and so forth.
So do you think like evil spirits or unwanted or could come too, like unexpected like that?
I've never had that experience because they're not welcome. So I always say, when you turn on the light, the darkness goes away. So when you're emitting love and positivity and light, that's what you'll be receiving as well.
Yeah, I've had unwanted twice, and they're both the same person.
Oh.
And my stepfather, after he passed, after his funeral, I woke up, and it's the first time I'd ever seen anything like that. And I woke up, and he was standing at the foot of my bed, and I just, without thinking, I sat up and I said, "Get out of here! I didn't want to see your face when you were alive, and I don't want to see it now."
Chances are what was happening, and I know you do near-death experiences.
But I was like 20 and I was 20 and pregnant at the time. It wasn't like me now. It was a long time ago.
What I'm saying is, I bet that your stepfather he went through his life review, and he was able to see how he affected you through your eyes as if he was you. and he wanted to come and say he had regrets and he wanted to say I'm sorry. So I bet you that's what
Yeah.
he
Oh, that I felt that instinctively. Like he wanted me to give him his get out of jail free card, like get out of
yeah.
hell. And I'm like, no,
Right.
suffer. That's how I was at that moment.
Wanted
And
you
in
to
fact, at the funeral before this, a counselor approached me and gave me her card, and she said, because he was arrested before he died, a short maybe month before, for trying to kill my mom and my stepbrother,
oh God.
and he was seeing a counselor, and then he found out how this heart issue after that. But so she says, here's my card, I want you to know I talked to him, and he wanted me to tell you he's very, very sorry, about how he treated you growing up, and if you ever need to come talk to me, here's my card. And I just walked away, and I threw it in a trash can as I walked out of the funeral home. And so when he showed up, I'm thinking, you're coming to apologize. When he come to apologize before he died too. He came, and him and my mom, and I made this big nice dinner, and I was very nice, and they got ready to get in their car, and he wanted this hug. Okay, my whole family didn't hug, let alone hug this man who was so cruel to me, tried to kill me all the time, And so I stepped back, and my mom says he wants to apologize, and I said, Mom, I made him dinner. I was nice. You guys came, but I can't do that. And so, but yeah, I felt, and then so the second time, because I said there's two times I experienced it the same person. Years later, I was going to college, and I was driving along, not thinking about anything, and through my windshield as I'm driving the car, I just felt like he was like there. And I just screamed out again, get out of here. I didn't want to see you before I didn't see you now. So, I mean, that's where I was, in my level of forgiveness.
Oh God. You know what though? This is something, it's important for you to release it so it doesn't affect you anymore. Him, in other
Yeah, I
words,
appreciate now
right?
that
Yeah.
before he died, he did want to come apologize. That he
He did.
acknowledged it, and
Yeah.
he acknowledged it to the counselor, and that he come to me twice, I feel, in my heart, in spirit.
Yeah.
And I was like, get away from me.
Yeah.
And so I've released that. I appreciate that he did know and he did understand, because nobody else in my past has yet this living come forward to apologize. So I can appreciate that now.
Right. Oh, of course. But you know what I would say about that whole thing is in near-death experiences and those who've passed, they go through that near-death experience, how they affected you. Why do we have to wait until it's too late to see through the other person's eyes how we affected them? Why don't we go through it now and create peace in our lives and in the lives around us as well, right? Try to see through the other person's eyes as we're going through life before it's too late.
Right.
Right?
Right. Because I think he's seen you say something somewhere that like you go like through a life review with them. We'll
Yes.
talk about that.
Uh-huh. So we leave the physical body and we are then able to feel how we've affected each person through the other person's eyes as if we are the other person. Because what happens is when you no longer have the physical body, you see that connectivity that we really are all one. It is real. You've heard that saying, we're one, but it doesn't feel like that when we're in the
Right.
body.
I don't get
I'm
that.
over here, right, and you're over there, and my cat's over there, and so forth. But you leave the physical body, you feel that oneness with everyone and everything, and even with God and the angels and so forth. So what they're able to see is how they affected you, because here's the hard thing to understand is because they are you. You say, oh my God, they're not me, but yeah, in a way they are, they're part of you. You know what I mean? So
Is that because once you, because of that telepathic, there's no separation. We don't have bodies that we can totally immerse into. Oh, this is what they felt when this was going on. Like maybe my stepdad abused me because whatever, reasons. And so I can understand them reasons now.
Right. There can really be no reason why he abused you, no real good reason. But if you could see through his eyes why, maybe he was abused. Maybe, I don't know, he did, when you can understand that, it could help a little bit to understand that.
Well, I understand just because of maturity, not because of life review, but I understand because my mother wanted that.
Yeah.
She was jealous of me, and so she wanted him to be mean to me.
Oh.
To make her feel secure in who she is and their relationship. And yeah, I mean, he abused all the kids, and I was the youngest, so I got the longest. So it wasn't this this one because of jealousy and this and that. But I think by the time it got to me, I was there, and so I had it the longest. And I don't think she pushed him towards abusing the others. It was just, he was an alcoholic. It was a raging alcoholic. But I think by the time it got to me, I was starting to enter into, getting older and things. And now that I know her at 88 years old, I can see the jealousy. And I didn't see it back then. I can see how she's so jealous of her daughters. I mean, she slept with one of my sister's husbands. She slept with one of my sister's boyfriends, my other sister. And she's always trying to get with my first husband. I mean, the sexual things. And she'd come on to him negligee one time right in front of me. And she would talk about his anatomy, personal stuff and things. And so,
this one?
my mother, yeah.
In front of you.
And yeah. And so I think now I look back and I think, not to excuse him, but, I can see where, Don's going to get you, my stepdad. He's going to get you. Wait till he gets home. He'll get you.
She made him do that. Yeah.
She encouraged it. She made me out to be, like I was the scapegoat,
right.
for her and their issues. And like, if we could just, beat on her, we would feel we won something, like against my dad. Those kind of issues, when, a stepdad's raising somebody else's child and they don't like that man. And, so there's a lot of things went into it. I can see now all these years later. But, as a teenager, it's like, why is this happening? Why do they treat me like this? So
exactly. You're supposed to be protected by your parents, not abused by your parents. So, and when somebody says forgive, you say, how can I do, for what they did to me? But I assure you, when you do forgive, do you ever hear that saying, it's not the snake bite that kills you, it's the venom that's left behind. So you don't do it for them because they don't deserve it. It's for you so that you don't hold on to it anymore. It's the anger that, hurts us.
Yeah. And you just have to find some way not to forgive them where you're given another opportunity to abuse you, but to where you don't hold yourself.
It. Right. But so that you don't hold on to that anymore, so that it's hurting you. We're not saying that what he did was right or what your mom did was right. Absolutely not. So, And besides, it's a reflection of who they are, not you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I keep saying we all have our own judgment day. I don't have theirs. I have mine.
That's right.
So, holding against them isn't helping anybody. Let God deal with them. They'll have their day just like I'll have mine.
Right. We all, go through our own life review, how we've affected people. The only thing we could do is try to see through each person's eyes at each day. Oh, say you're in the grocery store and there's a long line and the cashier is very slow and you're in a hurry. That's just an example. It could be that person's first day on the job, right? It could be your son, it could be your daughter. And so in other words, instead of getting angry and screaming and just say, okay, all right, go inside and send them love and so forth. It's just saying you're doing a great job, right? You just try to see through their eyes.
Where I live, there's just common thing, and my husband and I, we enjoy doing it a lot. There's a long line and all the aisles are busy and packed one of those days. And we'll look around and see who don't have very much, especially an older person. Do you want to go ahead of me? Oh, thank you. And before you know it, everybody in that line is like we're family. We're like, oh, well, here, go ahead. I'm staying here. I have no hurry, Or somebody will say, oh, I just got this. Do you mind? I'm like, sure, go ahead. But usually they don't ask, but sometimes they will. But usually they'll like, and then you start noticing everybody just gets calm around you. Everybody sees what's going over here in this aisle, and we're laughing and having a good time. Yeah, come over here, get ahead of me. And so everybody just like relaxes instead of, I'm so mad, this ain't right, they need to hire more people, And it ends up being like a family reunion.
Right.
It works every time.
Absolutely. And you spread the love, and then everybody, right. That's what people want, really.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, you go to a dance and nobody's dancing yet. Everybody don't want to be that first person. And so I used to always get up and I'd just dance and act like a fool. And I was like, you can dance better than me. So come up here and show me. And it would just be all about fun and not being, the best dancer and how you look. And everybody just relax and just.
Exactly. Right. Somebody has to be the first.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I get off on tangents here lately. I don't know what's wrong with me. I think I'm so sheltered, this whole COVID thing. And then, and then I was like, I guess somebody to talk to. So is there any certain cases you'd like to talk about that you were really surprised at what happened?
Oh, in all the years that I've been doing readings, there are some of my favorite ones. There was one woman, her name is Teresa, and she wanted to come in for an appointment, but I was really booked. So I said, I'm sorry, I can't get you in for a while, but you could come to a class, right? So she came to a class. I teach classes on how to connect with those who've passed, right? So she's sitting in the class, and her dad came through. He said his name was Tom, and he just was talking. And then all of a sudden she said, okay, if that's you, real dad, if that's really you, where's the missing money? Where's the money that you left in the house? Because we're moving and we're going to move and we're not going to have the money. And I said, I don't know if he's going to answer you, but okay. And I quieted myself because it comes telepathically. Remember, it comes as thoughts. And I saw a picture inside my mind's eye. This is how it comes. It's not outside of myself. It's like when you read this about the red schoolhouse, you see the red schoolhouse. So I see pink insulation in her attic, and he's taking the insulation out of the ceiling in the attic. So I was explaining that to her. She goes, I don't think he would put it there, but everything else you said made sense. Let me go home and I'll see what, if he did that. I said, okay, fine. And then I taught the class and everybody went home, and I'm cleaning up and the phone rings. And Teresa's on the phone and she's all excited. And I said, what's going on? And she said, Karen, the money was there. So it was a substantial amount of money under the pink insulation in the attic. So that's when you know without a doubt that he was coming through. There's no way I would have known that.
Right. You couldn't have guessed
that. So these types of things, and there's many of those that confirm that it's really the loved one and not, if you go to a medium and they say somebody's here and they love you very much, that's wonderful. But we need a little bit more information, like evidential, that's really them, that type of thing.
Like when you're in public, do you just see these spirits or do you hear them? What's that like?
When I started connecting with those, after that experience with the light that I was talking about before, but that was over 20 something years ago. It would happen all the time. I'd be in the supermarket, I'd be on the street, and it would happen. And finally, I just set the intention. I said, only when the intention is there or if it's an emergency. So that's what it is now. So when the intention's there, or if there, at one point there was missing people that I was helping to find, when they find the body, okay, I'll hear you now, that type of thing. But it was scary. I mean, in the beginning, I would, I'd be in bed, I open my eyes and there's somebody in the doorway. I really didn't want to see that all the time. You know what I mean? So now it's just like that.
I have the unique perspective on this. Not that I can't do any of those things you do. I'm just saying, but my first NDE, I was 5 years old and I drowned. And after I hovered above the pond, I was just this ghost kid. And my second NDE 20 years later, it was the whole tunnel and the heaven experience and all that. But this drowning, it was just, I was hovering above and I thought, which way will I go? And so first place I went was right. And there was a house, and I could not find this house today, like to go and like remember this with this house. I just remember this doorway into this house, and I'm standing at the doorway, and there's a kitchen, and it's like old-fashioned metal type table and chairs, and these older adults are sitting around it, and they all stop and look at me when I walk in. I assume to this day, these were spirits in this house. And so I walk in, and I said, where can I find some kids to play with?
And you were a little girl at the time?
I was 5 years old. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
And the man at the head of the table turned, looked at me. Nobody else said a word. They just all looked at me. And he said, go check the graveyards in town. And so as I'm growing up, I would think back to this memory, and I'm not grown up because I didn't remember any of this until after my second NDE. It come back in this big flash. But anyway, so as I'm getting older and I would think about it, I was like, this makes no sense. I wouldn't talk to anybody about it. But now I'm very comfortable with it because I'm not afraid of it anymore. But so then the next thing I did, because I thought then, I think back, I think graveyards, that can't be real. Why would a spirit say that? Like, is that the only place kids hang out that are ghosts, is graveyards, And now that I'm older, I think, well, maybe they do. I don't know. So I went towards that town, the other direction, and where he told me, and I see two boys walking, and they're carrying a fishing pail and fishing poles. And so I'm walking along talking to them, and they're ignoring me. I'm not realizing people can't see me.
Right.
And so I'm talking to him, and then the youngest one starts talking to me, what I would say telepathically now. But years I had that memory. I didn't have that word. I would just be like, we were like, talking in our minds, like, and but I didn't catch on to that at 5 years old. I'm talking. I'm like, why are they talking to me? Well, then the younger one started talking to me, and then I realized, I say later, this was telepathic. We were like looking at each other, and mouths moving. And I said, where are you going, huh? What are you doing? And he's like, oh, we've been fishing. We got to hurry home. And like, huh? I'm like, well, they're ignoring me like my older siblings do. This is no fun. So I go flying down the highway, and I see kids running in the yard playing in this corner lot on the way to my grandma's house. And I was running around the yard playing with them. So when you talk about things like that, I can picture it from the other side, from their side, trying to communicate, yabbity, 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 yabbity.
Telepathically, as you're saying, right? As we were talking about. I'd love to hear your net. I know you've probably shared this before, but I have never heard the other near-death experience. What happened there?
Oh, the 25-year-old. I was 25 years old.
Uh-huh.
I died of an ectopic pregnancy. I was pregnant for twins, and the doctor did an ultrasound. He said both babies are in the uterus. But I started having pain, and I call him, something's wrong. I think it's ectopic. He's, no, Peggy, both babies are in the uterus. So by the end of the week, pain was so bad I could hardly walk. So I told my husband, I started bleeding. Told my husband to take me to the hospital, and it's about an hour away. Went almost to the hospital. My bad pain suddenly faded in a way that I could almost like see it going. And I felt like wherever the pain's going, that's where I'm going. I know logically to tell people that, like, what? That makes no sense. But that's exact. I remember the exact words I felt in my head. That's how I was feeling.
Yeah.
And I'm dying here. And so I prayed, God, just let me get to the hospital. Don't make me die here along a highway. I had to pull over and deal with this dead wife. And so we got to the hospital, and I was like, and so once I got in a wheelchair, they told my husband to stay and fill out papers, and they took me on to the room because I said, I think it's ectopic pregnancy. I told them there at the hospital too. And I said, I don't know. I said, if I'm going to pass out or throw up. And so they put me in a chair. They just started pushing me to go down this long hallway to a room. And they put a blue bowl in my lap in case I got sick.
Okay.
Because I thought I was going to throw up.
Yep.
And so I had my hands on the armrests of the wheelchair, and I thought, oh, I'm going to throw up. So I wanted to get that bowl, right, and throw up. I couldn't lift my hands. I couldn't move a finger. And I thought, I lost contact with my body. What's going on? And all of a sudden, I thought, oh, I'm going to pass out right now. I'm not going to throw up. I'm going to pass out. And my head hit my chest. That was me dying. I thought I was going to pass out, and I died. My head hit my chest. All of a sudden, I am in a tunnel. It's narrow, and it's dark, dim. Not real dark because I can see a little. And there's this loud noise of wind speed. I am being shot like a rocket way, way, way up through space. And I'm thinking, oh no, I just died because I'm not in a wheelchair. You're not in Kansas anymore. What else are you going to think? And so I never heard a near-death experience. Like I say, it's 1986. And so this loud wind speed tunnel ride come to a halt real fast. And now I'm just suspended in this white light. There's no me. I look down. There's no arms, legs, nothing. And I'm thinking, wow, it's real. The whole heaven, everything, it's real. Because I'm not in a casket like I was scared, scary movies. Right. I was always afraid I would be dead and wake up in a casket scratching and try to tell people, I'm down here, and they wouldn't hear me. That was my vision of death. I mean, I went to Sunday school and church, and I know what they said, but they said we all went at the same time. I didn't know you went individually, like when you die, you go. Mm-hmm. And so here I am, and I'm like, wow, it's true, that this must be heaven. Where is everybody? And I seen an outline of people in this white light, just a faint outline. Say if you open up a coloring book and how it's just the black edges, imagine those are so faint, those black edges, you can hardly see them. And you got to squint your eyes to make out what that is. But I see an outline of people. I can see the head, shoulders, that's the outline. And I seen one row standing. And then the second row in front, I see another row sitting in front of that row. And then I see one sitting up front and center. And I thought, that has to be God. And I started bitching him out. Basically, hell no, that's not what you think you're going to do when you go to heaven, right?
Yeah.
So when you get sitting in Sunday school in your little dress, I'm going to go and I'm going to bitch out God. No. But I had 3 kids at home I needed to raise. I had 2 biological sons, and we were in the process of adopting my disabled sister's child. And I had to be back there and raise these kids. And being abused growing up, I didn't want my mom to get her hands on these kids.
Right.
My husband at the time, my ex, he drank. He came from a big family of alcoholics, and big Catholic family, and they all drank. And my husband's mother was mentally ill. She was in and out of mental hospitals. What was going to happen to my kids?
Yeah.
And so I said, I can't go. And so I basically stomped my feet. I'm not going. You can't make me. I got to go raise my kids. And then this scenario opened up and on my left in this white light. And it was just like somebody took a television screen and put it right there. And it was like I just was standing at the doorway of a store, and there's this checkout, and there's a little boy, and there's a mom, and the dad is kind of faint. It's like the dad's there, but it's not like the most important thing. It's the mom and the little boy. And this boy's screaming what he wants, and he wants it right now. And the mom's like, no, you can't have that. And he's going, ah, and she's unaffected by this. And I realized that was God's way of showing me, you're acting like a spoiled child. The answer is no. And God was just as calm as that mother. No, you can't have that. And when everybody else says they're told, that it's not their time, they have to go back. Well, mine was the opposite. I was saying I have to go back, and God told me in audible voice. I heard God's voice, and it was male, authoritative, but loving. And he said no. The answer was no. That it was my time.
Back. Okay. But you did come back. So what
Well,
happened?
I pled my case. I thought I got to do something. I thought I got to settle down and not act like that spoiled child. I got to do something else. And so I said, okay. I said, God, I know from being Catholic, because I married into a Catholic family, I know you're omniscient. If you tell me that my sons will be better off without me for any reason, be better off without me, I'll agree to stay. But if not, I beg. See, I'm not demanding now. I beg to return. And then I see me across from myself, a physical me. I'm looking at her, and I'm screaming out every abuse that happened to me, explain to God why I can't leave my kids down there. I said, I can't have even one thing that happened to me happen to my kids. I can't. And to leave them down there without a mother's love and protection, I just can't do it. I didn't have that. And this is what happens to kids, but it was sped up like you turned up a record player on full fast speed, like it was over with. And it was like God's way of letting me know. When that happened, it was God's way of letting me know, I understand. I already know. You don't have to keep going. And I kind of felt like we had to hurry, like time is the essence here. And so it was out. And so then so I always explain this, like if we're in a clock, like this orb me that first got there and it's invisible, say I'm the center of the clock. Mm-hmm. And say when I see the panel of people, say they're at like 3 o'clock. And say the scene opened up with a little boy in the store, say it's like 9 o'clock. And the physical me screaming this all out, like the record player thing, is like, say it's at 12 o'clock. Say at 1 o'clock, I then look there, and I see, and I believe it's Jesus, and I see him just from behind, this thin male with, I remember brown hair, like shoulder length. And I just instinctively know what I'm to do. And I feel myself move from the center point, say the center of the clock, beside him at 1 o'clock. And I don't look at his face or nothing like that. As soon as we are side by side, and then we drop. And we are now out of heaven. We are now above my trailer we were living in at the time. And it's in the future.
Oh.
And now I equate it to like the story of Christmas Carol where the ghost of future. Mm-hmm. We show them the future if they had died. And it was, my sons were mourning my death. They were in their bedroom. They looked the same age as when I was then. But they were mourning my death. It was fresh. It was still new. And my middle son, Jeremy, he said to his older brother, Matthew, he said, I don't care that you say Mom is dead. I want her back. And I want her back right now. And I felt his pain so bad. So when you're talking about feeling life review and knowing what somebody else went through, I know that because I felt his pain so bad, and I retracted, and I was now back in heaven in front of that panel of people and God. But now Jesus is sitting, and it would be my right, but God's left. The Bible says this on God's right, but this is what happened. He was sitting on on God's left. And so I see him on my right. And I'm still a physical body because I see my hands come up front of my face and I crumble at the feet of Jesus. And I think, okay, I accept this, It's not God's fault I died. It's mine. I had a tubal reverse. I had a tubal ligation. I had a tubal reversal. I knew there was a slightly chance of tubal pregnancy, and I took that chance and I got it. I caused myself to die. I caused my twins to die. And now I've caused my children to be motherless. And I accept it. And it's like I accept my punishment. And I accept that I'm not going back. And then I had another thought. I thought, because I thought, well, okay, I accept it. Because when my sons are old men and they die, I'll get to see them again. We'll be reunited. And then this fear out of nowhere, just like flames, infused me. And this fear was horrifying. I thought, what if my sons are so upset their mom died at such a young age that they hate God? And they never return to heaven. I never see him again. So I'm back to this hysterical state, but now I'm sobbing. And that's when I think, well, somebody has to teach them about God in order to come back to heaven, right? Or to come to heaven. So that's when my hands come out from my face and I say to Jesus, which I don't see anything but outlines. And I say, but I think I see the bottom of Jesus' robe, a white robe, and his feet in sandals. That could be my imagination, but it's just like, I just see that much in my head. And I say, who else will teach them about you? And then I'm back in that wheelchair.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, what the hell was that?
Wow.
I was just in heaven accepting it. And now I'm back in this wheelchair. But it's not over, because now I have to get my doctor to understand I'm dying here. And I can't tell him I was just in heaven. And that's why I know I'm dying here, right? I can't, because he'll put me in the psych ward. So he comes and examines me, and he preps me for a DNC, and then he sees Pegi, your uterus is intact. You're still pregnant. Why do you keep saying it's a DNC, or why do you keep saying it's dual pregnancy? And he looked at my husband like, what is wrong with your wife?
Wow. So what did he say happened?
Well, he was going to send me home. I think he thought I was crazy. He was going to send me home. And I knew, I couldn't say a word about what just happened, how I knew that I was dead here if he didn't help me. And the only option I had was go home and my sons find my dead body, see me dead at home, or die here. So I chose die here, the hospital. But I couldn't tell him that. And I said, I'm not going home. Because I thought, I'm going to die here in this hospital. I'm not dying at home. I don't do it to my kids. And but all I said was, I'm not going home. And he said, well, since you live an hour away, if it'd make you feel better, we can put you in a room tonight. And so my husband left, the doctor left, they all went home, went to bed, and they put me in a room by myself, and I went to sleep, and I woke up with that same pain back in my tube area, my right tube area. And I would sit up, get my bowl, and I'd wake up and be vomit all over me, but not in the bowl, because finally after a few times, because the nurse had, I put my light on, she'd come in and clean me up, and she keeps getting mad. She said, use your bowl, like dummy, And I said, I think I'm passing out. I think I'm vomiting while I'm passing out, because I get this pain, I wake up, I sit up, and then I wake up and I'm covered in vomit. I'm not just like missing my bowl here. And so they wouldn't listen to, finally I said, call my doctor. Because after a while during the night, I knew I was dying each time. I was passing, I was dying. I had no more near-death experience. But after so many times, I remember praying so vividly to God and said, God, I know you can't keep bringing me back. Please keep me alive until morning. Maybe my doctor will come in early and do an ultrasound, to prove me wrong. And so, and you find out what's going on. And so that's what happened. They went to take me down to ultrasound in a wheelchair, and I passed out right there in the wheelchair. So they woke up, and I'm in my bed again, and there's a whole team of nurses around me smelling salts with their eyes this big. And they said, we got to leave you flat in bed, because every time you sit up, you pass out. And I thought, I told you all night,
You've been trying to say, right.
So they took me down to ultrasound, and that's when they seen I had internal bleeding filling my entire abdominal cavity clear up to my chest.
Gosh.
And they said it's the biggest dual pregnancy they ever saw. They called my whole family and said she's not going to make it.
Thank God you were there. in the hospital.
If I hadn't had that NDE,
Yeah.
I would not be here. I would have died that night at home.
That
And
doctor
my kids
doesn't,
and my husband there, or just, I don't know, my kids. If my husband would have went to work today, the next day, and I'd still been alive then, I
right?
died during the night. And I didn't want my kids to deal with that. On the way there, I didn't want my husband to deal with my dead body along the road. But then at that point, I didn't want my kids to find my dead body. I mean, when your options are limited, the most you can hope for is that your loved one doesn't find your dead body.
But I'm glad you were in the hospital so they could help you, and you're here to talk about it.
And I
So
know God kept me alive
yes.
because I asked. I asked that I didn't die along the highway, and then I asked that they wait till morning to.
Did you, when you came back, did you have a different personality or different priorities? A lot of times when people have the near-death experiences, they do.
It doesn't happen overnight, at least didn't for me,
Uh-huh.
because woke up from the surgery with my twins gone, and I
Yeah.
mourned and mourned so bad. And then the next month, I was pregnant again, and I was sure I would die this time. You're not going to get that lucky to have a normal pregnancy. I just felt I'm going to die again, and so I miscarried at 2 months. I was 2 months pregnant with the twins when I lost them. Years later, I found out that all the miscarriages I had, they dissolved in the tube. They were all tubal pregnancies, and they dissolved in the tube. Only one of them did I have to have surgery and have the baby removed. And I was so early, I caught it so early that it was in the tube. It wasn't like it hadn't ruptured.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, so that you asked. So that
That
was
is
my.
amazing. No, but you know without a doubt that you survived after you left the physical body. So
Yeah.
you came back
See,
to talk about it. Yeah, absolutely.
but after when I lost the second miscarriage at 2 months, right after the twins, I realized then I didn't have the word psychic, and I would have never called it that then. But I heard a child crying at a family reunion, and nobody else heard it. And I kept saying, going up the line, "Do you hear a child?" No, no, they didn't look. And so I went out in this field, and I was like, "God, I know there's a child out here crying, but why would? Oh, I don't see it." And I heard something say, "Go to that patch of grass." And I thought, that sounds silly. Why would it, patch of grass? I walked the patch of grass, and there's a deep ditch. I had found out later, my husband explained to me, there was cabins up on a hill, and they were getting water, and so they made a ditch, go down from that hill, from the cabins down through that field, and that little toddler fell in that ditch. And then, so here was this little boy face down drowning. He was like this and barely like twitching, and I reached down and pulled him up my back of the shirt, and he stood there, put him on his feet, and all this water is flowing down his face, and he ran to his parents, and I seen him pointing at me, and they looked at me like, what, I don't see anything. And that was in 1986. In 2010, I was a counselor, and I recognized the last name, and I said, oh yeah, did you go to those reunions? Like, oh, yeah, great big guy, And he said, yeah. I said, let me tell you a story. And I told him about the little boy drowning, and he leaned way back and
And him?
he said, that was my brother.
Come
He
on.
says, he swears to this day an angel saved him. I can't wait to tell Mom that we now know who that was, how this happened. But
Wow.
that man swore, even as a grown man, I'm telling you, an angel saved me. And they thought, what's wrong with him? This makes no sense.
So let me understand this. So when you were out of your physical body is when you saved him, not when you were in.
I was in my body, but the weird thing is
Yeah.
I could never figure out when that little boy is pointing like she's right there. I saw them like, what? Like nobody's there.
So
And
why
I'm like,
did they see you?
I'm thinking I'm standing right here. Why can't they see me?
Yeah.
I said, I can't tell you. I can't explain that.
Wow.
But the moment I picked him up, I felt I miscarried. So I went to the outhouse and, verified that I was bleeding. So as soon as we ate, I ate with my family under a tree away from everybody. I didn't want to be around everybody because I was crying. And I said, as soon as we get done eating, we're going to leave. And so, but then right after that, I was going down the road and I saw my husband pull over. I got to go to that house. Long story short, there was a child in there choking on Easter basket grass. I rushed in and saved him. And then right after that, we were sitting on our deck, and we always would put the boys down for a nap. We'd go sit on the deck, sunbathe a little bit, and have the radio on. And this day I said, you know what? Right before I walked to the door, I said, I don't want the radio on today. I want it quiet. Never did that before. As soon as I sat down, I heard a slight scuff that you would not pay any attention. And I said, I got to go see what that was. And by now, my husband at the time, he's like, I'm going with you, because he's realizing these things are happening to her. We don't know what's going on. And he went with me, and there was a car wreck. It went off the road, hit a tree right up our hill, and probably nobody. We didn't have a lot of traffic on that road then, and if they did, they probably didn't pay attention because it was so quiet. We walked up on that car. It's perfectly quiet. You heard nothing. The two guys in the front, their heads was laying on the dash. Their necks were broke, and two was ejected from the back seat and went flying way down the cliff on that hill. And so later on, we called the squad and stuff. But later they said the two in front, they kept losing them en route, and they revived them. And that they had all had, I knew a friend that worked on the squad, and she said they all want to come thank you. She says, you saved their life. Wow. They never come around, but these things just happen for a while.
And did they stop after a while?
They did. And I started feeling more in touch with my true feelings, like with your spirit. After that, from the abuse, I blocked everything out. I didn't talk about things. I didn't express myself, and I buried stuff. And after that, I started hearing myself talk. Like I could hear more connection with my soul.
Right.
And which I didn't have words for that then either. I look back, and I think that's what it was. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to college. And I was out of high school 10 years, and I went back to college, and I wanted to be a child abuse investigator.
That's
and I became a child abuse investigator, and I didn't ever think it was me, anything special about me, but everybody else was noticing. Right, the first month I was there, I had a knack for this. I knew things. And I knew it, so I could walk right in a room, and oh my gosh, this is what's going on, and I could get confessions really easy. And I was really good. I was there 7 years, and I ended up handling like 75% of all their cases, because people only wanted me. The counselors, teachers, I want Pegi. I don't want any of those other investigators. I want Pegi. And so, but I ended up uncovering corruption. Too much information. Like, ignorance is bliss. Like, too much, right? You just know too much. And I was getting people in trouble. My boss.
You were very psychic after that experience. You experienced more intuition and so forth after that.
I ended up uncovering county-wide mafia.
Really?
The assistant prosecutor involved in drug trafficking. The payoffs. Oh, yeah. Well, I got the FBI involved. I mean,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. So then my life was in danger.
It was? Oh, because
Sheriff's deputies tried to have me killed twice. It's in my book. I wrote it.
Sheriff's deputies?
It's in my book. I mean, if I was lying, I wouldn't have put it in my book, right? Sheriff's deputies tried to have me killed twice.
Wow.
Tried to get the clients. I mean, put me in situations that I should have died in, and then pushed me into situations. But And so eventually I was like, they're not going to run me out of here. They're not going to run me out of here. As an abused kid, you just keep going, right?
Yeah, you have
Take
to.
the hits.
That's it.
You're unconscious. You wake up. You just keep going. You just keep going. And I was married to an alcoholic. It was starting to be abusive. I just keep going. Well, then one day I'm like, now they realize they can't run me out by these threats and things, and by not speaking to me and treat me like crap every day. So what do? We no longer investigate sexual abuse.
Is that what they did?
Yeah. So I said, well, I told my supervisor, what do I do? And she says, well, keep a list of all the names of the cases and the perpetrator. Mm-hmm. And then just keep a list. I had one of them yellow legal tablets, names on every space all the way down, mm-hmm. and all the way down on the next line. Wow. And I was getting ticked, right? They were trying to run me out by no longer investigating sexual abuse because they said us workers could no longer investigate it, and the prosecutor's office would investigate those from now on, but they were not. Not one of them did they investigate. So by the time we started down on the halfway on the second line of that page, I was in the wrong mood that day, and somebody called me, one of my family's upset. What is going to be done about my child being sexually abused? This man broke into their house and raped their child in their house, and they were mad, and they wanted something done. And they just picked me on the wrong day, and I told them the truth, which we're not allowed to do, right? I told them the truth. I said, I have a long list of names because you know what? Our county stopped investigating sexual abuse. I said, that tells me from now on, sexual abuse is legal in this county. And I said, here's the number to call to the Attorney General's office if you're upset about it. Of course they did. So then I get a call from the prosecutor, Peggy, get your butt down here right now. What did you do?
Oh, no.
And I went down, I was a tiny little thing at the time like you. And I went right in there and I sat in his office and I took my butt chewing and I gave it right back to him. And then the assistant prosecutor, different than the drug dealing one we had before, he walks in, he's like, why are you talking to Peggy like that? To the prosecutor.
Oh.
And I'll say the prosecutor's name, John Lennis, was the prosecutor at the time that stopped investigating child sexual abuse in Meigs County, Ohio. And so the assistant prosecutor, Karen Noe, walked in. And he said, why are you yelling at Peggy? And so I told him, they're not investigating sexual abuse, and I've had it, da-da. And he looked at the prosecutor like he didn't know this was going on. He says, Peggy, you may be excused. I'm going to take care of this. And I walked out, he walked in and slammed that door, and I heard him yelling at that prosecutor.
Wow. And what happened to the...
So then they continued what they were doing. And, but I started forcing it, calling him. Okay, prosecutors won't help. This is what we're going to do. We're going to have the sheriff's office do. We're not allowed to do them as workers. Prosecutor's office ain't doing them. What we're going to do is I'm going to start having the sheriff's office do joint interviews, me and the sheriff's office with these children. So a counselor had a girl that was raped at the fair. And she was ready finally to talk about it, teenage girl. And I said, meet me at the sheriff's office this certain day and time. This girl, it took her months of therapy to get to this point, right? And we're not going to do this twice. We're only going to do it once. We're going to put it through her twice. Meet me there this day and time. I go there, day and time. Sheriff's Department stand there ignoring me. I said, where's my victim? What are you talking about? I said, no, I scheduled this with you. You agreed to it. Where's she at? And they said, oh, that little girl, we sent her home.
They sent her home.
So I went trucking across the street to the prosecutor's office, pissed off. And I said, they sent my client home. We were supposed to do a joint interview. And they let me sit there for like a half hour thinking I'd go away. So he says, I said, what are you going to do about it? So he called the sheriff and he says, what'd you do to make Peggy mad? And I'm listening and watching his face to see what they're saying. The investigator at the prosecutor's office hung up the phone and he said, they don't like you, so they sent her home.
Oh my gosh.
And then some other crap was going on in the office where the supervisor told the whole staff, even the secretary that takes my calls and gives me messages about my cases, you don't have to talk to Peggy. Nobody was talking to me. This was already going on. And so this happened. And so I thought, the next day I went in and went to the director and I said, I've had it. This just happened yesterday at the prosecutor's office and the sheriff's department with my victim. And the whole office won't speak to me and give me my messages. And I said, this has got to stop. And he said, you need to speak to your supervisor. So I went down the hill then, I took it up to my supervisor. And so the secretary said to me, the supervisor says, we don't have to talk to you. And here's my letter of resignation. I'm out of here. And my supervisor's like, no, Peggy, no. I do all the work, right? She says, you can't leave. I said, I'm not doing it. And I walked out. And she says, think about what you're giving up. I'm invested in my retirement and my, I could have, when I adopted 9 kids, I could have took major time off with pay. And I didn't take it because I had all these cases. She told me, just take off your family leave. And I said, no, I need a break from this, a clean break, that I'm never coming back here. And I walked.
Oh my gosh.
It's corrupt. Everybody told me, Peggy, it's this way everywhere. And I'm finding out, not everywhere, but it is a lot of places. And I got a lawyer, and he said, Peggy, everybody knows how Meigs County is. He knew us telling the truth. He says, I'm not going to go up there and tell them how to run their business. I'm not going to go up there and get in the middle of that. And my supervisor told me before this, she says, Peggy, I used to be like you. And she says, but I realized I have a son. I said, are you threatening my son's lives? That's exactly what she was doing. Meaning, like, if you don't want your sons dead, you'll shut up.
Oh my gosh.
And she says they have little black books. All the attorneys and judges in this town, they have little black books of favors and, paybacks and payoffs. And she says, and they warned me, a lot of different, at the sheriff's office. The first time they tried to have me killed, they called me on the phone. It says, Peggy, come out here, we need you, which was not protocol. It went through a different system, right? But they called me directly on my phone at work. Right here, we need you. I said, well, I don't know anything about this case. Well, we just need to take custody of these boys. So I go out there in my car. We're way out in BFE. And there's a little camper sitting there and a trailer off to the side. And they said, we're about to arrest this dad in this camper. And we want you to go knock on that camper door and tell him you're there to remove the kids. Once the kids are out of there, then we'll arrest the dad. And I smelled a skunk. Like, all my instincts was like. And I said, did you look for family and stuff first, I said, well, and they said, oh, ask the neighbors. And they said they wouldn't take them. And I said, well, there's no family. I said, well, let me call the judge and get a temporary order, verbal, before I don't walk up and knock on people's doors. I call the judge first. We don't do that. Right. You have to call the judge and get permission before you walk up and tell somebody you just took their kids. And they said, oh, no, Peggy, get up there right now. I smell skunk. I said, I'm not doing it. I said, you go arrest him, then the kids are dependent children, and then I can call and ask the judge. So you know what happened? They go up, they arrest him, they leave, and they come over and say, Peggy, you don't need to get the kids, the neighbors are taking them. And I thought, what is going, they're playing games with me, because they already told me how they felt about me, right? And so before this, in cases. And so, because I was making them look bad, really. I mean, like I was like hitting, but getting these confessions and stuff. But so, and removing people from people that they didn't want removed from. They want to control what happened. So anyhow, so I'm getting ready to leave. I'm getting ready to pull out. And the deputy comes over and says, Peggy, come here. I want to show you something. He walked me over to that camper. Now, they just arrested the guy. The kids was already in that trailer with them people that already agreed to take it. So they knew they lied to me. He says, Peggy, come here. I'll show you something. Walk over to that camper. He says, come in here. Come in this camper with me. I want to show you. This camper was hollowed out, and there was a gun and ammunition at every window on the floor. And he said, that guy told us, you send anybody here to take my kids, I'm going to kill them. So we called you. He said, what do you think of that, Peggy?
Wow. I'm glad you used your intuition, though.
But who do you do? Who do you call when the sheriff's office just admit, we were trying to kill you?
Wow.
We thought this guy would kill you. And if I hadn't had my intuition, I would have got my head blown off.
Yes. When you came back from that near-death experience, you just came back with a greater sense of knowing and the healing ability and all of that. So.
And my ex's family is all involved in that Meigs Mafia, and I have no doubt that he wasn't encouraging it as well.
Wow.
So.
Oh my gosh.
And as soon as my book was published, I sent a copy to the judge in town. I took it to an attorney in a neighboring county. And never has anybody disputed one word. Not my family. The only person that disputed it was a unadopted daughter we had. We unadopted her because she was horrible. And she wanted to go basically nymphomania and stuff. And she got on my Amazon book thing and said that she read it, which she hadn't. She read it and it was all lies. And then after she wrote that, because she did it on my birthday to hurt me, that's why she did it. Then the next day she calls her sister in Alaska and says, will you send me your copy so I can read it?
Oh,
She hadn't read it. She was afraid that I had told all the bad stuff she did. I don't talk about kids, right?
right.
I won't tell you what horrible things my kids did because they're kids, right? But yeah, that was the only person that said. I've had a couple of people say, it's true, but I wish you hadn't said it. Or I don't think you had the right to tell it. But that was the only thing I've heard in 5 years that said, that ain't true. And that was just that one girl. So
Oh my gosh.
I think she would admit today that she lied, that she never read it, and there was nothing about her to say that was untrue. I mean, it was mostly about my childhood and my work stuff that she would have no knowledge of. So what would she have any knowledge of what wasn't true in it? So.
Right. Well, you had quite the life, I'll tell you that. Right? My gosh.
So, and to cover my butt too, I mean, I had filed a Ohio civil rights case. All that information went to them. They had put it up to United States Health and Human Services. They sat on it for 5 years. All the testimony, documentation, everything my family was put through. Because once I quit, they tried taking my adopted children as revenge.
Oh boy.
And we caught them in so much illegal shit they were doing. And I even lied to other counties, and when we produced the evidence that they were lying, even the Judge Buck, they had called about a child, and he lied and said, we had custody of a child we didn't have custody of. So this other county would prosecute us for neglect of this child we didn't have custody of. And just, yeah. And everything, not to get political, but everything that's going on right now with politics is just, the whole world is seeing our politics. Because this has existed in county level and state level and federal level forever. It's just out there now. The corruption. And, it's horrible. And now here, look what we got. Everybody in the world sees it now. What a mess we have.
Right.
The payoffs and paying back people for, Supreme Court didn't vote the way I wanted, so this is what we're going to do now, And the money hands that changes for things to get and to go after people that, I've always said, if my kid had a booger hanging out of their nose, they'd get removed from my home. I mean, that's just...
Oh my God.
Because it's Pegi's,
Yeah.
And my county never removed children, ever. I don't know what they do now, but back then, we couldn't, not permanently. We moved kids, yeah, but not permanently. We never did, hardly ever did permanent, custody, where they're now available for adoption. Like, it just didn't happen here. Because they didn't want to pay for those kids in care.
Right.
So.
Oh my goodness.
So I guess we got off topic of psychic, but they can save your life when your gut is saying, I don't think so.
Listen. Right. You have the intuition, use it. We all have that intuition. And, you have the near-death experience that just enhanced what you already had, your intuition. So,
yeah.
That's awesome.
And, in hindsight, I look back and it just seems like, I'm sure it's with everybody's life. You can see how everything was so perfectly orchestrated. Like if this hadn't happened, I wouldn't have known this and wouldn't have reacted that way. And,
right.
We go through these horrible, horrible things. We think, God, why is this happening to me? And then it might take decades and we're like, looky here. Say even, say a mother or, a child killed, drunk driver. That's horrible, horrible. Why would that happen? But then she ends up touring the country, giving a speech about, or changing the laws. These horrible things happen, and we have the ability to go and make things better down here. Because down here, once you've been up there in heaven, earth is down here.
Right.
And so, when I was in that bright white light in the first few moments, I thought, oh my gosh, everything goes on down earth. It's just an awful place. And it's just so horrible. I mean, it's not even safe to leave my kids down there. And we all can change things around, even like, being an abused child, became a child abuse investigator.
Yeah, you made it right. You, instead of doing what happened to you, you made it better.
Yeah. And, I've watched true story movies of a woman was raped and she ends up becoming a cop.
Right.
And helping sexual abuse victims.
That's
And I just think that's what we all got to find, that strength, because the best thing to do with your sorrow is to help other people in that situation.
Absolutely.
Because it takes that mind off your pain and you're focused on everybody else's.
Right. That's right. No, that's awesome. Well, thank you.
And thank you. And like you're spreading, you're educating people to, you were afraid you would look crazy and sound crazy and what people would think about you, and you cut through that.
Right.
And now you're out there in public saying, this is what I am.
It is. Right. So we all just have to be ourselves and spread the light. Like I said before, you turn on the light, the darkness goes away. Hopefully. It does. It does.
Because I think we can't shine until we are our true self.
Right.
We're not going to shine me trying to be you or you trying to be me.
Right.
We
all
got
have
to
our
find
own
out
experiences. Yes. Yes.
what our niche is. And despite people saying that we're crazy or people, we will be amazed at how we shine.
Exactly.
So I'm sorry. I'm really talkative lately. I don't know why.
That's right.
But I appreciate you coming on. Was there anything you didn't get to share or say that you
No, it's fascinating, and just to remember who we are and just spread your light for everyone to hear. That's all.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great rest of the day.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right.